Hello everyone! Today we will be making some tofu vegetable dumplings. Here are the supplies that you will need. A cutting knife, a cutting board, a small spatula, a measuring cup, a 1/4 teaspoon, a regular teaspoon, a 3/4 cup, a peeler, a box grater, 2 cheesecloths, a strainer, this is optional, a large mixing spoon, a large mixing bowl, a small bowl, a fork, a spoon, a plate, a food processor, a grater attachment, this is optional, a basting brush, and a steamer. Here are the ingredients that you will need. 14 ounces of extra firm tofu. This can be found in the produce aisle of your grocery store. 2 small heads of green cabbage. 2 medium-sized carrots. Half a cup of scallions. 4 cloves of garlic. Feel free to use more or less. 1 tablespoon of minced ginger. You can use ginger paste as an alternative. A 1/4 cup of minced cilantro. 2 teaspoons of salt. 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And a 14-ounce pack of dumpling wrappers. This can be found in the freezer section of your local Asian store. Now let's get cooking. Start by opening your tofu and draining out most of the water in the sink. Using your cheesecloth, wrap the tofu and place it on a plate under a form of weight. I'm using a stone mortar, but you can use pretty much anything, such as a heavy dish or even a brick. Just make sure it's clean. Next, cut your green cabbage in half and then chop off pieces around the stem as shown here. Because everything is going into the food processor, make sure all the cabbage chunks are roughly the same size so everything blends evenly. You may need to cut up the larger pieces. Add the cabbage into your food processor. You may have to do this in increments depending on how large your food processor is. Use the pulse function to crush the cabbage, occasionally using your spatula to scrape the bits that get stuck to the sides. When your cabbage starts to look like this, add it to your measuring cup with the help of your spatula. Repeat these steps with the leftover cabbage until you have 2 cups. If your cabbage ends up being more than 2 cups, you are welcome to add it in anyway. Once you have reached 2 cups of cabbage, add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to it and mix everything up. The salt helps the cabbage release the water that we are eventually going to squeeze out. Leave that aside for now. Next, wash and peel your carrots to remove the outer layer. For this, you can use either a peeler or scrape it with a knife. Once you're done peeling, cut the top end off of the carrot and begin to grate it with the large hole side of your box grater. As you get to the end of the carrot, Be careful with where your hands are because you can cut yourself. Only grate as far as you are comfortable. When all of the carrot is shredded, measure out 3/4 cups and add it into your measuring cup with the cabbage. If you end up with any excess carrot, feel free to add it in anyway. Next, take your scallions and chop them like so. Be sure to cut off the root and discard it. When chopping, try to cut the scallions nice and thin, otherwise they will not distribute well into the mixture. Once done, you can either measure out 1/2 cup and add it to your large bowl, or put in as little or as much as you wish. Next, take your garlic cloves and peel them. I like to do this by taking my knife, laying it flat on top of the clove, and then pounding on it with my fist to break the outer shell. Even if the garlic itself ends up a bit crushed, it does not matter because all of this is going into the food processor. From there, it should be pretty easy to peel off the skin. Feel free to add more or less garlic depending on your preferences. I will be using a little more. Once done, add the garlic into your food processor along with the peeled ginger if using. Be sure to use your small spatula to occasionally scrape the sides so everything blends together evenly. If you do not have a food processor available, you can use a garlic press or simply mince it. When your ginger and garlic are nice and crushed, you can add it to your bowl. Next, take your cilantro, bunch it up in your hand, and begin to chop it up like so. It is important to get everything nice and fine so it distributes well in the mixture. When your cilantro looks something like this, you can add it to your bowl. Next, unwrap your tofu and wring out the cloth. The tofu is full of moisture and we want to remove as much as we can from it. If you can, rewrap it and repeat this step. Once the tofu is drained to the best of your ability, start to crumble it with your fingers. I like to first break it up into 4 pieces, break those chunks in half, and then go into crumble. When you are crumbling, make sure to break up all of the larger chunks and even out their size. You will know you are done when your tofu looks like this. Go ahead and add it to your bowl. Next, take a bowl or container of any size, place your strainer and cheesecloth over top like so, and then transfer everything from the measuring cup into the cloth. Wrap the shredded vegetables in your cheesecloth and start to squeeze the water out like so. I like to do this by twisting the top of my cloth instead of just squeezing. The reason so much liquid is coming out is because of the salt we added early on in the recipe. Though this vegetable water is not used in this recipe, it can be stored in the fridge and used in another recipe. Once you have squeezed out as much water as you can unwrap the mixture and add it to your bowl. Lastly, add 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt and pepper as desired. You can now mix everything together. If your bowl is full, be sure to keep your spoon connected to the bottom while mixing to prevent things from spilling out. You will know you are done mixing when it looks something like this. It is now time to make your dumplings. You'll need your wrappers, the filling, a small bowl, a spoon, and a fork. Take your small bowl and fill it with some water. Dip your finger in it and wet the outer edge of the dumpling wrapper like so. Next, take a spoonful of filling and place it in the center of the wrapper. Make sure it is not too close to the edge. Fold the dumpling into a semicircle shape and use the tips of your fingers to press the ends together. You may have to push the filling in if it starts to overflow. Lastly, take your fork and use the prongs to press down on the wrapper edges to fully secure your dumplings as shown here. Continue to make as many dumplings as desired following these steps. Try to avoid adding little filling into the dumplings because the vegetables will end up shrinking anyway when steamed. You will eventually figure out how much filling to add with some trial and error. Once you have finished making your dumplings, oil a steamer plate with your basting brush and arrange them on it. I like to place the dumplings in a circle to save space. Remember to also spread some oil on top of the dumplings. Fill your steamer pot with 1 to 2 cups of water or enough to cover 2 inches of the bottom. Cover and bring to a boil. Once boiling, place your dumplings inside and steam for 10 minutes. Be sure to ask an adult for assistance if you are unsure about this step. You will know your dumplings are finished cooking when they look something like this. Depending on the wrappers you used, the cooking time may vary. Be careful when removing the dumplings from the steamer pot. Feel free to ask an adult for assistance. Your dumplings are now ready, and I would recommend eating them with soy sauce. Hope you enjoy!